Boy Kavalier and his devoted artificial companion Kirsch argue about the wisdom of returning the animals recovered from the Maginot wreckage to Prodigy's Neverland headquarters halfway through Metamorphosis. Kirsch correctly notes that Kavalier is taking a chance on something new and shiny, after 10 years of effort on the technology that gave rise to the Lost Boys. Kavalier, quoting Shakespeare, expresses disappointment at the response, describing these monsters as like an undiscovered country. And you are a scientist now. The decades-long history of the Alien franchise tells us that Kirsch is probably correct and that it is a bad idea to bring xenomorph eggs, along with the walking eyeball and other Maginot specimens, to a remote island base. This will almost certainly result in many deaths, putting the costly Lost Boys and their influential boss in grave danger. However, what happens later in the scenario is more significant than the blind hubris of one of the most powerful individuals on Earth. Kirsch has already worked out the xenomorph's whole life cycle, mastering what it has taken characters in other Alien films a lot longer to learn. On the one hand, Noah Hawley and team would be wise to keep the audience from getting too far ahead of the characters. We are all aware of how this operates, and it can be annoying to watch several episodes while waiting for Kirsch and Kavalier, two brilliant minds, to catch up. On the other hand, Kirsch's rapid and almost casual review of what he has discovered is representative of an awkward episode that appears to be rushing over a lot of material, particularly when it comes to the xenomorph. Wendy goes deep into the wreckage site to save her brother from the xenomorph, and we continue where we left off. The show is putting its most dangerous monster up against a character who is essentially a superhero, so what follows should, in theory, be exciting. However, the fight is awkwardly staged and appears to be an attempt to shield Wendy, who is extremely strong and quick but lacks training, and her opponent's deadly instincts. Though it's not used, there are several instances where it appears obvious that Wendy may be killed by the alien's barbed tail in a matter of seconds. After leaving Hermit behind, she battles it in an elevator shaft before finally fighting and killing it off camera. Similar to how Morrow was able to stun and confine the xenomorph with ease last week, this show's early action highlights the difficulty of developing a series centered around a species that is extremely powerful and difficult to kill, and that only exists to kill others in order to breed. Returning to Noah Hawley's remark that he views the White Walkers as the subject of the films, he feels that the xenomorph is the Trojan horse for the other stories he truly wants to tell in this universe, even though he wants this program to be Game of Thrones. Which is generally okay because this series has a lot of intriguing concepts, many of which are well employed in later episodes. However, this one begins in well-known alien terrain and concludes with Kirsch attempting to create a new xenomorph by implanting the facehugger seed inside Hermit's surgically excised lung. This week, it's far more difficult to overlook the turmoil surrounding the title character. The focus of Metamorphosis is on the remaining members of the group, especially the other Lost Boys, because the initial xenomorph has died and Wendy and Hermit are both still disabled following that vicious altercation. The first of them, Wendy, was so obviously preferred by Boy Kavalier that he put them all at risk because she wanted to go assist Hermit. And she is resented by a few of the others for it. In addition to being envious that Wendy chose the only appropriate name, Nibs appears to still be frightened by her experience with the eyeball creature. Curly attempts to persuade Kavalier that she is truly the exceptional one because she dislikes being the supporting role. When Slightly and Smee encounter Morrow on the Maginot, they reveal that they are actual people with synthetic bodies because they lack chill. Even though we know that Morrow is only interested in getting back Weyland-Yutani's stolen goods, he subsequently manages to speak with Slightly personally and declares that he wants to be his buddy. Morrow's whole existence is now the ship's cargo because he has no family left after leaving Earth 65 years ago, not even the daughter he mentions to Slightly. It's simple to forget that the Lost Boys are kids at times. However, Slightly and Smee make a big impression in a number of subtle ways as well as some more overt, humorous ones. Their natural tendency to shelter behind Kirsch when they feel threatened, as well as the way they converse and engage in silly games while sitting around a xeno egg. Morrow, who finds them remaining on the Maginot debris and is instantly captivated by their nature, finds them to be a pleasant counterpoint. There's some disagreement over his own. He is a cyborg that has been on a quest for 65 years to recover the xenomorph samples that he lost control of right away. Any humanity he may have had has been eroded, and the aliens are now not only his purpose in life, but also his only motivation. In Episode 3 of Alien, Earth, Morrow appears as the real wild card. Although he is officially Weyland-Yutani's property, his call to Yutani herself implies that he won't be given orders. His motivation now comes from his personal connection to the xenomorphs and how they have taken the place of everything else in his life. He is determined to retrieve them from the Prodigy City facility where Kirsch is currently conducting experiments on them at all costs. He accomplishes this by passing through Slightly, whom he had previously discreetly implanted with a small gadget that enables him to speak straight into Slightly's brain. Similar to Boy and Curly, this is another case of a child being practically raised, this time as a friend, for the evil intentions of those who do not want them. Morrow is too much of a machine to feel bad about manipulating Slightly, but he can remember enough of his humanity to know how to do it. It's an interesting dynamic all around, and that's not even counting the more classic Alien content, which is where this episode ends. Through Kirsch's research, the tiny xeno tadpole that inhabits the facehugger is discovered. After being taken out, it is put in a tank containing Joe's removed lung and promptly burrows into the organic tissue. Meanwhile, Wendy is being tortured by snatches of the experiments, stumbling along the corridors in misery. She has a biological connection to the xenomorph somehow. Is there another, darker reason for that, or did it occur when she battled the xenomorph? In any case, the question is interesting enough to keep us interested until the following week.